Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside AVL, and I'm sitting down today with Daryn LaMontagne from Southpaw, Florida Hardcore. What's up, man?
What's going on, man?
Today we're going to discuss the realities of being a modern musician, from writing songs, touring, merchandise, social media, gear investments, and building a fan base, and what life is really like, and behind the scenes. The conversation also explores the unique perspective of being a working musician and a guitarist and employee.
Every member of Southpaw has been in, obviously previous bands. We were all prior musicians. But how this band ultimately started was during COVID in 2020. I already knew everybody with the exception of Mark, the bass player, which Alan later brought into the picture. But long story short, man, 2020 hit. I wasn't even playing music at all at the time. Southpaw wasn't even a thing. And what I wanted to do was put on a benefit show to raise money for businesses and people in need because of the pandemic that was going on. And basically, I got together with Alan and brought him over to Harrison's, which is the drummer. Alan's the guitar player, Harrison's the drummer. And we had a list of songs of different new and older hardcore bands that we were going to cover, and raise money, and utilize the resources we had to do so. And basically, we all got together in the same room and started learning these songs. And very quickly, we realized rather than covering songs and putting together something like this, none of us are currently playing in any bands, really. Why don't we just write our own music and put our efforts that we're putting into these covers into writing our own material and just see what happens with it, because Harrison and I, the drummer, had already played in bands prior. Alan, I'd known since I was 14 years old. He was in hardcore bands when I was younger. Booked some shows here and there. We played shows together. And that's pretty much how everything came into fruition. And from there, we began writing and ended up recording and producing our first EP, which is self-titled. We don't play any of those songs anymore unless it's a one more song type deal, encore type deal, if that's what you want to call it. But that's where Southpaw began, and it's just evolved throughout the years.
It just dawned on me, there's not a lot of punk rock cover bands, right? You'll get classic rock, you name it, whatever genre, there's a cover band for it, but there's not a lot of punk rock cover bands.
Yeah.
And so that sparks a lot of originality in a punk rock band that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah.
And it's even kind of cool just to play, maybe a Nirvana song, hardcore version of it or something like that. But still, there's some originality to that.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
When did you realize music was more than a hobby? Was that the point right there? When you're like, wait a minute, we actually sound good? And
yeah. I've always known that music overall was my purpose. Being a vocalist and or frontman, however you want to say it, has always been my purpose. But during the pandemic and prior to the pandemic, I had a series of different small businesses that I was running while working for a massive corporation. And I was working sun up to sundown, running 3 of my own small businesses while working for someone else. And then at certain points working 2 jobs. And it was just, I was just burning the candle on both ends of the stick, if you will. And when the pandemic hit, I very quickly realized all of these small businesses and the massive corporation I was currently working for were facing a lot of troubles, more so my small businesses, because they were much smaller, And the pandemic hit, and there was a realization that I had, and it was at any given moment, something massive could happen in the world that is beyond your control. And you could lose everything, essentially. So
a lot of people did.
Yeah, a lot of people did. I mean, everybody did, you know, in one way or another, especially the small businesses that I was doing, because I was doing a series of, you know, businesses ranging from flipping houses to renovation work to lawn and maintenance, mobile detailing, things of that nature. And I don't regret any of it. Was any of it my purpose? No. But what I did take away from it was a lot of lessons. So I told myself when the pandemic hit, I said, you know, if I'm going to exhaust my resources and my knowledge and put it into something for me, then it's going to be something that I love. You know, it's going to be what my purpose is. And the first thought was music. You know, I had always been a musician, but I had never applied a business mentality or mindset to it in order to make that grow. It makes sense?
Yeah.
So it was like I took all the tools and resources from the small businesses that I was in and the corporation that I was working for, and I applied that to music, as well as Alan, you know, my guitar player. He's been involved in a lot of his own small businesses and such. So naturally, when him and I got together, we just got to clicking, you know, and collaborating on a lot of things. And once we all got together and started playing, and we realized, hey, let's take this further than just covering a bunch of old hardcore and new hardcore songs for a show to raise money. Let's actually do something with this. It then very quickly became a, hey, let's make this a thing. You know, it's already all of our purpose. Let's put everything into this and go all in. And that's exactly when the switch flipped for me and the rest of the guys.
That's great, man. Having a purpose other than serving the man,
yes,
is a great thing.
Yeah.
I find that fulfillment in my life too. I work for Guitar Center. I have multiple other small jobs that I have, and I can, you know, I'm a 1099 man on my own business.
Yeah.
So, what does the typical week look like for you as an artist?
It depends. Depends on where you fall position wise within your band, because there definitely is a how can I put it? Not necessarily
hierarchy.
Not necessarily. I don't like to use that word hierarchy, but there absolutely is a.
Well, there has to be a leader,
a line of leadership. You know, for me, it's based around being creative and making content that is valuable to our audience. So, you know, on a very regular basis, I'm either making videos and content to connect with the fans, or I'm driving sales and merch. We drop merch frequently. Very much so advertising our music videos, because that's a huge deal for us. You know, you make this initial investment into a music video, whether you're working with a label or not, wherever the funding is coming from, essentially it comes from you from the get-go. You know, like our first round of songs, we made all those investments ourselves. But you want to drive that. You know, you want to constantly be in people's face, because everybody is on their phone, you know?
Right.
So you have to make a presence known if you want to stay, I guess the word would be relevant, you know? So for me, it's connecting with the audience on a regular basis, creating creative content, consistently writing throughout the week, and being the person consistently that writes these lyrics, you know, because for me, like we kind of talked about before, it's a lot about, you know, mental fortitude, perseverance, you know, being a higher version of yourself. So for me, it's about doing the things required to be that person daily. So part of that is me going to the gym on a regular basis, having a healthy diet, and practicing what I preach. And have there been times I've fallen short? Sure, I'm human. But Southpaw has always been about that, and even keeps me in check at times, because I have to be that individual for my team, so for me, that's the things that fall under that, and being, I guess you would call it, the face of the operation. Somebody like Alan, for example, he deals with the day-to-day operations and has for quite some time. So that could range from phone calls, meetings, whether I'm there or not, tour routing, making sure that certain financial obligations are set in place that him and I discussed prior to these things happening. Making sure that those contracts are signed and followed through with. Now we're at a point where, thankfully, due to the work that we put in, we have a TM that goes with us, so he doesn't have to deal with a lot of those day-to-day things anymore whenever we're on the road. And we have other people in play as far as management and booking agency and things like that. But initially, man, it was all us, out the gate, doing all of the hard work and just grinding at the teeth, and some days it would seem like we were spinning our wheels getting nowhere, but every day was just one more day closer to the goal and getting to where we wanted to be. So as far as the daily operations and the social media content creation, that all those things fall on myself and Alan. And then you got Harrison and Mark, which are phenomenal at what they do. They certainly carry their weight when they're on the road. They don't have to deal with the same kinds of headaches as Alan and I, but they absolutely carry their own weight. They play to the fullest when we're on the road. They deal with a lot of the loading in and out and facilitating certain things to do with that, on stage plots and things of that nature. So everybody has a role. Everybody has a position that they have to live up to. So day-to-day operations, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. It's a nonstop job. It never ends, because you never know when the label, if you're with a label, is going to need something or require something of you. You have to be prepared for those moments. It doesn't matter what's going on in your life. You either have to stop what you're doing and do what you need to do, or make time for that later. Things like this, me connecting with you. This is part of my job. Part of my job is to, speak with the fan base and our audience and answer questions like this. So even this, carving time out for this, is part of my job and what I do. So yeah, I would say that's it in a nutshell.
You have me pretty excited, man. Excited in the sense that you guys are well-maintained business machine. And if you're a band out there or a musician out there listening, you need to listen a little bit further. You need to listen to what he's saying. And, I mentioned hierarchy, but it's more of diversity is what it is. Everybody has their own role in the band, and that's what you execute it at. You maintain a healthy thing. You don't show up intoxicated or strung out. And you're in the team. This is a business.
Yeah.
I find that extremely extraordinary. And I think that's where a lot of artists fail. And whether you're just a hip-hop artist, soloist, or whatever, if you don't have these things into play, it's called the 4 Ps. Have you ever heard of the 4 Ps?
No.
I have a degree in marketing, and the 4 Ps are people, place, product, and price. And if any one of those 4 things are out of whack, you have a business problem. You have to have the people, you have to have the place, the product, and the price.
Yeah.
And as long as you keep those 4 core things the center of your business, then you'll succeed.
Yeah.
And that's what you guys are doing, man. Come to find out, you guys have a lot of fans. That's great. And a lot of times they misunderstand what it's like to be in a touring band.
Yeah.
Why are their tickets so high? How do they even make money? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so there is a lot of confusion and misunderstanding between the average fan, I guess, if you want to call it that, or listener. A lot of people and I speak for many musicians when I say this, not just us, but a lot of people have this idea that, oh, it must be nice. They see you on stage, they see the lights, the camera, the photos, you're up there basically living your best life. But what they don't see is what goes on behind the curtain, the work that it entails. It's nice to finally get on stage because about 90% of it is business and negotiation and networking and relationships. And if you don't have those all in place, things are going to work in someone else's favor, not yours.
You're not going to get paid that week.
Exactly. So you have to have certain things in place. I won't get too deep into detail, but legal binding contracts that ensure that before you even leave for said dates, they're signed, and then that's fully followed through, when you get to the venue and you speak to this promoter that you're doing business with. A lot of bands will go out, and not bashing them, everybody has their own way of doing things, but we operate as a business. A lot of bands will leave home and go hundreds of miles on handshake agreements with people they don't even know and get themselves into bed with somebody that may or may not have their best interest. And then the next thing you know, not enough people show up to the show, or the person facilitating and running the show is just a bad seed, and they just don't follow through on their end of the deal. And next thing you know, you're stranded across the United States with no pay, no gratuity. You're exhausted. You have no connections out there, if you don't. As far as places to stay, you could be down bad. So you have to think 10 steps ahead and make sure that these things are all in line before you even leave and follow through with this tour. So that's a lot of the stuff that people don't see in the personalities that you encounter with these individuals, and the sizes of the room and the stages and everything. There's so many fine-tuned little details that go into finally being able to be on the stage and playing overall. And they just don't see that. And that's okay. They're not the musician or the artist. That's something that we as musicians and artists take on, and you can either learn from and become better at it and better your operation each time, or you can continue to do things the same way, which is insanity. And you do those things over and over again. And that's why a lot of bands just simply don't grow, and it's not even taking a jab at anybody. But if you want to continuously grow, you have to continuously be learning and applying those things that you're learning to bettering your operation over time. And as long as you're doing that, you're going to see growth. And you track that growth, and you lean into what you need to do in order to make it excel.
They say the hardest experience to overcome is the one that you repeatedly have to experience.
Yeah.
And so, learning from experience and growing off of that, I can see how that goes into your lyrics a lot too.
Yeah.
How important is merchandise compared to streaming revenue, would you say?
Huge. I wouldn't necessarily say comparison. They're both equally important. Mm-hmm. And they're both forms of income, which is great. But the merchandise that you create, whatever somebody's wearing on their chest or their back, is a representation of you and your business and your band and your brand and what you stand for. So you want to make sure that whatever people are wearing, they're representing you correctly, Yeah. So that's huge for us. Obviously, it's a big way of us making a profit. So we're very strategic and creative with how we do that, with seasonal drops and listening to the fans and hearing what they like and taking those things into consideration.
Makes a lot of sense, man.
Yeah.
Got to bring them what they need, what they're asking for.
Now, as far as the streaming goes, that's another big part of it, obviously, because that's a source of income for you as a musician, and you want to take the funds from that and put towards something else to continuously see it grow, make it grow.
Long-term royalties.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's a way of going about that to split those things up, but you obviously want to have a good portion going back into the business to keep it growing. You have to take the money that comes in and you have to put it right back out into other things that you're going to see continuous growth with.
Sounds like a good business plan, man.
Yeah.
What are the biggest expenses do you think artists face today?
A lot of them are unforeseen. Now there are foreseen expenses that you face, obviously, but unforeseen things like, for example, one of the first times we went up north, we broke down several times. So those are unforeseen expenses, whether it's a radiator, a leaking hose, you catch a flat on your trailer, your tire. You have to be prepared for those things. You have to have emergency funds on lock. Battery goes out, blown gasket. There's so many things that could happen, and we've faced, for that matter. We've been absolutely stranded before. But thankfully, Alan, our guitar player, is what I would consider a mechanic. He's worked in body shops. So anytime something happens, we're able to utilize the resources we have at hand in order to fix these situations, and we've always done that. So I would say between unforeseen expenses, paying for merchandise up front as a newer band, unless you have some kind of deal or agreement with a merchandise company. Also, your recordings and your videos, unless you have a label funding those, or you have somebody that's in the band that's a bank, which we don't have, never have. You're going to have to pay for all those things out of pocket up front. And basically, just like any other business, cross your fingers, roll the dice, and hope that something comes back out of that. Not necessarily because you want to get paid, but you want to see it continue to grow. So those are a lot of the expenses. And then also gear. We've over time upgraded our gear since the beginning of the band. Drums, bass, guitar, everything we've upgraded. And even as far as our show itself, we've always done big backdrops behind us to represent the band and our city and things like that. We're about to have our third one. So those are expenses, but gear itself is a massive investment. I've watched Alan and Harrison specifically over the years dump so much money into guitar heads, new guitars, rack systems, cabs. As far as Harrison goes, full new drum sets, and it's whatever is going to be best at capturing the sound that Southpaw has overall and is moving towards.
Well, good thing you got that Guitar Center employee discount.
That's true, and we've used that for sure.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, we've used it all over the U.S.
Which is also a bonus.
Big bonus.
Having Guitar Centers all across the United States, you're more likely going to go to a big city that has it. Oh, man, we're out of sticks, or strings broken. Or,
yep.
Man, we need to buy a new DI box. All that comes into play.
Yeah.
Great stuff. How has social media changed the music business, do you think?
Some people think that it's for the worst. And then some people rely solely on that and think it's for the best. Me personally, I'm kind of right down the middle with it, because every musician that I come into contact with, especially at Guitar Center, they're like, how do you do this? Whether they see the monthly listeners or the amount of merchandise we sell or whatever, you're constantly connecting dots as an artist, and one big piece of building your brand and your band and your music on one side is social media, because everyone is on their phone. So you have to constantly be in their face, whether you enjoy it or not. I can't stand being on social media, but it's a part of my job, is the way that I see it. So whether I like it or not, suck it up and do what is necessary to get the job done. So that's one side of it. because you have a lot of fans that don't even go to shows. They just sit at home, or they're regular 9 to 5 guys, and they're not a part of that lifestyle, which is fine, but they still listen to your music. They still buy your merch. They're still supporting you in some way. So you do have that side of things. Mm-hmm. But then you also have boots on the ground, touring, being in these places, putting yourself in these situations, in these times and situations. And if you're not doing both, you're doing yourself a serious disservice, because if you're just solely relying on social media, you're cutting your audience in half. And it's the same with if you're touring, a heavy touring musician. If you're not leaning into the social media side of things, you're severely cutting your audience in half. You have to have both, especially in today's society, because we're in a different era.
You have to open up to discovery.
Exactly. We're not in the 80s.
There can be people
anymore.
in England going, "Oh man, have you seen Southpaw?" And
yeah.
then, you create a fan base over there. Where if you weren't on social media,
exactly,
they wouldn't even know who you were.
And I say this humbly. I don't look at us as any better than the next man. But the thing of it is we have a broad fan base all over. Between the U.S., overseas, everything. I mean, I've never. Prior to being a touring musician, I never even traveled much in my life. I was just strictly in Florida and had been to a couple states outside Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. But I had never experienced half of the shit I've experienced being a touring musician and being in these places. So for me to pull up our Spotify listeners or our Apple Music listeners and see that somebody in the United Kingdom listens to us, whether it's one person or 1,000 people, that's one person we wouldn't have connected with.
It's pretty motivating, man.
Had it not been for the social media side of it.
Right.
And there's been a lot of, not to get too off on this subject, but there's been a lot of people, because of social media, we've toured to those areas and they've taken care of us, and we've grown great friendships because of it. So it's like you find your people along the way. You have to have both. It's a necessary evil.
What role do you think gear, we talked a little bit about gear and upgrading and stuff, but what role do you think that plays in the success of your band?
Huge. If this is just a minor example, but if you're getting up on stage and you don't even have a noise suppressor, you don't have the proper cables, however you want to put it, you're going to get what you give. If you want to take the time to dial in a tone, which for the most part people chase all their life for the correct guitar tone, bass tone, however you want to put it. If you're not putting money and time and effort into those things and advancing what you're doing, you're going to stay in the same place. And while that works for some, it just doesn't work for us. We're constantly evolving. We stick to the traditional grassroots of things, but we just make it a little bit better each time, So I think it plays a massive role, because it also determines your true sound and how you're going to sound different from the next band. If every band had the same guitar tone and the same exact drum set and the same exact singer, what would make you different? So we're very aware of that, and always trying to do something that puts us closer to that next level.
You said what makes you different, and one of the things that I did some research on the band, and what I find compelling and honestly kind of refreshing is I grew up in Southern California punk rock bands. Suicidal Tendencies was always in Huntington Beach.
Great band.
I've seen Agnostic Front and Roger Merritt to his face to say, "Hey man, great set." Spanky's Cafe in Riverside to the North Hollywood Amphitheater Riot, and all of these bands are like MDC, and there are multiple different name changes depending on what they felt like they were singing about in that album.
Yeah.
They all had a certain message, and what I find empowering about not just hearing about your business aspects of your band is what are you relaying? What is your message to your fans? And man, like all those old hardcore bands, even the Vandals is, the Vandals is a great band, but they're kind of a comedy band. You can't not all that their lyrics are serious, but they're not.
Right.
You know. But what I felt compelling when I found out about your band is I could say it's a lot about positivity and perseverance and unity, and I find that empowering to the people that you listen to. It's not, you're going to go home, get angry, and go start a riot when you leave.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about some of that?
Yeah.
Because that definitely sets you aside, right?
Yeah,
right
absolutely. Off the gate. But I feel like above even that, it's not even just the message that you're relaying, but it's the life that you're leading behind that. Because there's a lot of bands that, they'll get on stage and they'll talk all this tough shit, you know what I mean? And that's fine. That works.
Or they're
for some
straight edge
people.
and they go get drunk afterwards.
Sure. Yeah. Which, hey, mad respect to the straight edge community. I got a lot of friends that have been straight edge for many, many years. I'm not, but I definitely respect that way of life, that pure way of life. But what I'm saying is a lot of people will get on the mic or get in the booth and talk that hot shit, but it's like, and then they'll get on stage and sell themselves as this individual or this entity. But outside of that, they just live an average life, and they're no more of a man than you are, And that to me is a gimmick. It's an act. And for Southpaw, it's not an act. It's living up to that reputation. And we say it in the music. Even in the song Torches, which is a single off the new record, The Standard, which drops July 31st. It says live up to the reputation first. And obviously that was inspired by things that are in the video, if you look. But it absolutely holds true for us because we live up to the reputation of hardcore, what it represents, and ultimately what Jacksonville hardcore and Florida hardcore represents. And we do it our way, So the message is absolutely strength, mental strength, toughness, perseverance, rather than pointing the finger and complaining about things like we kind of discussed before we started. For us, it's about looking within. What can we improve first and put out into the world and work through music as a vessel, So that's what's important to me. The message that's being relayed to the audience and being that person 24/7 that you claim to be, living that life that you claim to live, not being a gimmick or an act. To me, that's a joke. There's a lot of that going on and always has been, and that's in any kind of line of work. But when you're real, people see that. When you're phony, people see that. Do you want to live your life and make money being something that you're not, or embodying who you really are and putting that out into the world?
Sure makes life a lot easier and more enjoyable. And when you reach the level of success, you actually feel gratitude and you're like, man, this is how we got here. We are who we say we are. There's so many hypocrites out there. You're right. In all walks of life.
Yeah.
How do you balance creativity over the business side of music, though?
Well, I think that the best way for us to have found balance between that is, and this is not minimizing anyone in the band, but there's a very, very happy balance between handling business and being a creative or a creator. And for us, the best way that that's worked is Alan and I. It's like certain things creatively I'll deal with to represent the band and be the face of the band, if you will. And then other things, business related, even though we have conversations prior to moving forward with things, he'll deal with. So it alleviates a lot of that on both ends. He doesn't have to necessarily deal with content creation and all that headache. I'm able to spearhead all those things while he deals with the day-to-day operations. And you're able to find a happy medium when you have key players on your team that can facilitate properly both. When you do that, you free up more time. You take a lot of headache off one or the other, and it could be very helpful. So that's how I would say we find a balance between business and content creation and creativity.
That team concept, man.
Yeah.
You guys got it nailed. And I look forward to seeing your continued success.
Thank you.
And I've become a fan since I've discovered Southpaw.
Sick.
And TTG is one of those songs that's got me.
Sick.
And I appreciate what you guys are doing. And I look beyond the music, because most people will hear the hardcore part of it, but they don't hear the music, the message right away.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely down for that positive message. What challenges do independent artists face with fans they never see?
Challenges we face with fans we never see.
Yeah.
Man, that's sort of a loaded question there. That's one I may have to think about. I guess
dissect it. You never see them, so what do
Yeah.
you got to do?
Well, you gotta
social media.
Yeah, as we spoke about prior, it's about how to continuously stay in front of them and keep their attention, because the attention span is just so short nowadays. With you have 30-second reels, boom, 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 every time you swipe, and then you have people dropping videos that are like a minute, 2 minutes in a reel, and the typical fan base loses concentration or focus on those things. So you got to be mindful of these things. Yeah, that makes sense now. It's like creatively finding a way to stay in front of your audience and keep their attention and keep them coming back for more.
Well, I mean, social media exonerates the extreme.
Yeah.
But, and there's AI and the fakeness of that.
God, I hate AI.
Man, I think there is a lot into authenticity and showing that you're vulnerable, that you're authentic, that you're actually really humans. And even if your video is not like perfect, that's okay, because mistakes are what humans make.
Yes.
Even though ChatGPT makes a lot of mistakes, I think.
And I fall victim to that as well, because I'm somewhat of a perfectionist. I see things need to be done a certain kind of way, just from my aspect. And I will say I have to thank my team, the other 3 guys. They always remind me that not everything has to be so perfect in this way. It's just who I am as a person. If I put a video out where I'm even talking, everything needs to look right. It needs to be appealing to the eye, and I feel like that's just part of having a business mindset.
I'm just blown away at how perfect your beard is every time I see it. It's perfect.
That's huge for me,
You work
man.
on that daily?
Every Sunday, going into the week.
You see mine.
Hey, you got it going on too. Every
No,
Sunday
it's
night.
not as beautiful as yours, man.
Every Sunday night, lining it up, trimming it, so I'm going into the week correct. And then every Wednesday, I'm shaping it right back up so that, the start of the week, in the middle of the week, it just stays clean, year round. I got to stay on top. It's even harder to do it on tour, because you don't even know when you're going to stop at the next place to shower sometimes. And I'm a perfectionist when it comes to certain things like that. So it can be a challenge, but it's worth the challenge.
Your experience in the music industry from both sides, artist and retail side, what perspective has working with musicians every day given you different? Do you see differently now that you see other bands and musicians come in? And
yeah, I see so many walks of life come into the store. It's made me look at things differently, even though I felt like it never would. Because sometimes you just have tunnel vision towards your goal, moving towards your goal. But as Todd and I like to say, sometimes it's important to stop and smell the flowers along the way of the journey. And Guitar Center has been absolutely a part of that journey. I've been there a year now, and I've seen so many different faces and styles of music, and I'm so thankful for it too, because I look at things from a completely different perspective now. I see the store specifically that I work at, I used to go to when I was a young kid, and other musicians that I knew actually worked there, and musicians I looked up to at that, and they were living the same kind of lifestyle as me. I just never saw it from that perspective. And it's one of those things, nothing against any of the musicians that I ran into there, but I never had, as a young kid, an experience where I had a vocalist or guitar player face to face take the time to sit down and be like, hey, let me put you on game. Let me show you how this is done, or let me lead you in the right direction. For me, over the last 6 years, we've dealt with nothing but struggle and sacrifice and loss and gain and it's peaks and valleys as a musician. It's not an easy life, as you know. But for me, it's empowering, and it's a breath of fresh air, because some young teenage kid could come in looking for their first guitar, and you may be a staple in that person's history, so to speak. I
say a lot of times that happens.
Yeah, it's within your power to find that kid the right guitar, find the right amp, give him the right kinds of picks and options.
Make sure he leaves with everything, so when he gets home, he's like, hey, I can't plug in the... Man, I wish I would have got that cable.
Exactly. It's our responsibility as seasoned musicians to do that.
You know what that's called, man? That's called culture.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what keeps the doors open.
Yeah.
More than anything in Guitar Center. You walk in and you talk to someone that knows what they're talking about.
Exactly.
And I see that in you.
But beyond that, it's aside from even just getting in what they need, it's
being
building.
Honest.
Yeah. It's like we discussed before. It's a lot about building that personal relationship and rapport with these individuals that walk through the door.
Sometimes it just starts with some drum heads.
Yeah, growing with
Daryn
them and
was
their
so
success.
cool, dude. I'm gonna go back there and see Daryn again.
Look, the next, Jamie Josta could walk into Guitar Center. The next big thing could walk in. You may not even know it, but the more you invest into these people and you help them, you not only see them succeed, which brings you fulfillment, but you grow with them and you succeed with them. Same vice versa. So for me to have encountered all these hip hop artists that need studio equipment, drummers that need drum equipment that I have no idea about, it forces me to learn, which in a sense gives me more knowledge when I'm on the road as to what my drummer needs. Same with bass equipment and guitar equipment. I've learned so many different things. So I'd say my overall experience has been great. Do we all like working for somebody? No. But if you're going to put your time and efforts into something, make sure it's already what you're in the field of doing and continuously growing. So I'm thankful for it. And I get to, like we talked about, I get to visit the other stores when we're on our ventures around the U.S. I connect with those employees. It's a cool thing, man. It really is.
You ever have anybody famous walk in there? I'll tell you some crazy people that walked in the store.
It depends on how you measure fame.
Well, I'm talking like I've seen Joe Bonamassa in there.
Okay.
Jewel.
Jewel.
Amy Lee.
Wow.
I've met Amy Lee in person.
Yeah. Terry Balsamo, their guitar player. He's a regular customer of mine.
He was a client of mine back in the day too.
We've even had Riff Raff come in.
Riff Raff.
The rapper or the hip hop artist. Yeah. He came in recently. We've had, I want to say the singer and or guitar player from, was it Saliva? It's one of those bands like that. More like a very well-known alternative band. We've had sound guys come in. The sound guy for Terror, which I had just met him. I'm pretty positive he's a local from around here, and he's got a lot of mutual friends of mine. He came in there recently. The sound guy for Under Oath came in. So you just see so many walks of life, man.
One time I was working Welcome to Rockville, and it was downtown Jacksonville, and I'm backstage and I walk by Jim Root, and he goes, "Hey Jeff, what's up?" And I'm like, you remember me from the store, dude? He's like,
Damn.
yeah, I remember you. The bassist, Sam Rivers from Limp Bizkit used to go in there.
Rest in peace.
Intoxicated. Yeah, rest in peace, Sam. I love you, man. Just, you name it, Pastor Troy.
What?
Yeah, I have a picture with Pastor Troy.
Shout out Pastor Troy. Let's go.
Have you ever noticed any common traits or habits between the artists that quit and the artists that keep going?
Mental strength, willpower.
Organization.
Exactly. Discipline.
You're the most organized band I ever heard of.
That.
Or maybe this is the only one that's been documented.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't take that lightly. I appreciate that.
Dude, it's in the conversation, the way that you represented yourself, the way that you talk about how you guys separate each other's roles.
Yeah.
And it's not like, hey, I'm in charge.
And everyone's treated equally.
Yeah.
Everyone's opinion matters.
I would say there's no baseball team full of pitchers.
Exactly.
And there's no band, just people playing music.
Yeah.
There is no band. That's how a lot of bands break up.
Yeah.
It's because they can't get this part that you guys have dialed in so well.
Yeah.
And
the
you
way
guys are
I
going to
see
be the
it,
next Bad Religion touring 50 years from now.
Hey, one can hope, but time will tell. As long as we continue to put in the work and continue to grow and continue to keep a positive mental attitude, absolutely. And I very much so do see that happening, and I say that humbly. But one thing I want to share is the way I've always looked at it is I saw this picture a long time ago, and it was like two examples, right? One was a leader, one was a boss, right? And I always use this as an example when I talk about how we operate. And it's a photo of Trojan warriors on this, what is it, a carriage that's being pulled by horses?
Chariot.
Mm-hmm. So on one side, it says boss, and he's sitting up on this throne that's being pulled by all the Trojan warriors that are marching forward. And he's pointing his finger straight out, as if he's commanding or directing them where to go.
Sounds like a new album cover.
Right. But then you go over here, right, and it says leader. And what it is the guy that was sitting in this top chair over here is now at the front of the pack, leading the pack, going through the trenches, going through the hard times, going through the work.
Example.
The spearhead. So for me, I feel like that's a good representation of how we operate. It doesn't matter where we fall in line. The person that is the spearhead or the leader absolutely should be at the front and be willing to put themselves through just as much hell as the man next to him, and being in the trenches with them. And I would say overall, to answer your question, the one word that comes to mind that separates the people that last and don't is discipline. And how much of a priority is this to you?
Self-control is a big thing, man.
And we've all experienced that. You can very easily get lost in the sauce as a touring musician. Things are very easily accessible for you. Drugs, alcohol. We've all fallen victim to that at some point. But what reels us back in is what we came here to do to begin with. And when we're reminded of that through our music, very quickly reels us back in. Hey, remember where you came from. Remember what started all this to begin with, and the mindset. And that alone inspires me and the fans even, that I see doing push-ups or in the gym, blasting our music, doing jiu-jitsu, boxing, other musicians and artists that have been inspired to even do combat sports.
It's funny, I just went on a bike ride the other day and sported the album.
Dude.
It's so motivational, man.
That's
just keeps
sick,
going.
man.
Just keeps your motor running.
That alone, the fact that it impacts people like that, inspires me to continue on. Because life will just get to you. It doesn't matter how mentally tough you are, mentally strong you are, reserved, whatever. Life will beat you down sometimes at some points. And then I'll see things like that and I'm like, damn, man, like what we did.
Just gave you some inspiration.
Yes. And it keeps me going.
It
keeps me going, man.
Speaking of that, and we talked about like those just beginning what is some advice you can give to someone starting a band?
Is it your purpose? How important is it to you? Is this going to be just a thing that you want to? You got to be very clear about where you're headed with this before you start a band. In my opinion, not everybody looks at it this way. Oh, excuse me. What are you trying to achieve out of this? Do you want to just play music on the weekends? With
Get some donations for a cause?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the path that you want to take? Do you just want to be a weekend warrior and play music for the love of music? Or do you want to take this a step further and pursue it as a career? And you got to be prepared for what comes with either one of those walks of life. Because the same guys that you're playing with now on the weekends, if you try to pursue it as a career, oftentimes you'll find that the rest of those guys may not have the same mindset. So you got to be prepared for people walking in and out of your life.
You got to find those that are like-minded.
Exactly. And putting yourself in rooms with people that are like-minded. And even when you see those like-minded individuals, they're not all going to be for you. You're not always going to be for them. But the more you put yourself in those environments, the more likely you are to find who you need to be playing with. And thankfully for us, the core four of us have always had the same mindset, the same goal, the same dreams, the same purpose. So, that's my brothers, man. I would die for any one of those guys. They know it. I put myself in situations that have been dangerous for every single one of them. And some of them have too, so it's more than it's more than just playing music together. It's brotherhood. It's family.
Everybody wants to go to a hardcore punk rock show and fight. I used to love the Pit, man.
Yeah.
Just to do it.
Yeah.
Going against the Crane was probably my favorite.
Yeah. Yes.
What mistakes should young artists avoid? You kind of
not
hinted
listening.
on that.
Not listening to people that have been through it. Worst mistake you can be is the worst mistake you can make is being an arrogant know-it-all. Even the people that are at the top are still learning. Never stop being a student.
I'm still learning, bro.
Yeah, never stop being a student to the game.
Never.
Give respect where it's due. Always learn. Always learn. But I'd venture to say one of the most important parts of it all, like we discussed earlier, human behavior, being aware of your surroundings at all times. When you step into a field of being a musician, there are a lot of things that you have to be mindful of and pay attention to. And we even say just in TTG, like you were talking about earlier, everybody's intentions aren't the same everybody's intentions ain't the same is what I say, how I word it, but it's absolutely true. Everybody in this industry is not going to have your best interest. So you have to have a certain set of people skills.
In the minds and the lyrics of DRI, what is the Southpaw's 5-year plan?
To take this band to the highest level and impact as many people's lives as possible. Our number one priority and objective is not money. That's not what it's all based around and centered around. The money will come. That's whatever you put your time into has to make sense. If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. But by being authentic and pressing towards your goals daily is going to determine your paycheck. So Southpaw's goal over the next 5 years is to absolutely take it to the highest level, impact as many people along the way, and what we earn from this, obviously make our own living, but also give back to what embraced us so heavily. So we're big on giving back to the community as much as possible. This is not to gloat or anything, but we have, I'll share it. I have a really good friend, Devin McMillan, who's been in the music video, like the first 4 music videos we did back when we weren't anything. Nobody cared, which is fine. That's where you start. Nobody gives what you're doing. You have to make them. And you have to become that force to be reckoned with. But Devin has been there since the very start. And even our music and our journey has inspired him. You know, the first 4 videos we had, he was out of shape, bad. And you look at Devin today, and he's just chiseled. I mean, just a chiseled Greek god looking dude, you know. But the point of this is, shout out Devin.
Big one. That was a big one.
Yeah. The point of this, though, right, is Devin has a son named Atlas. And when he was only a year old, he was diagnosed with cancer throughout his entire body.
Oh, no.
So one of the first bigger tours we went on during that time, every single night on stage, I and the rest of the guys would talk about donate money to this cause. You know, a 1-year-old has cancer. Nobody should have to deal with that. You have unforeseen circumstances like that happen in life, and it's important for us to all to stand together and unite when things like that happen for our community, because Devin gave us so much and supported us, and he's become family to us. So it was only right that we utilize the platform we have to give back to our community. So we raised, with the help of the fans, thousands of dollars to contribute to that. And he, not because of just our funds, but he eventually became cancer free. And, you know,
that's amazing.
It's a blessing, man. I did recently hear that the cancer has come back, and we're going to do something to help that as well. But that's just one of many examples. We had another friend named Willow Elise, did a pre-order t-shirt drop for her, raised money. Hard Love, you know about the venue Hard Love here in Murray Hill?
Yeah.
Smaller hardcore venue, right. New, great staple to the community. They were facing being shut down. We raised money for that. I won't even say how much, but we raised money for that and gave it over to Josh, and hopefully that, you know, donated to the cause. There's been so many examples of things like that where we may or may not have even had the money to contribute, but that's our goal, man, is to not only take this to the highest level and make a career out of it, but also to give back, like I was saying, to the community. And those little things along the way, every single contribution counts. And once we get to a certain level and we're able to make bigger moves, you'll absolutely see that.
That's great, man. Last question.
Yeah.
If there's one piece of advice you can give an inspiring musician on this podcast, what would that be?
Never give up.
Wow, it's up there.
Never give up.
You see that up there? Never.
Boom. Never give up. Never give up, and never let the opinions of others sway your way of thinking. You know in your mind and in your heart what you're supposed to be doing and where you're supposed to be heading. That's all that. What you're supposed to be doing and where you're supposed to be heading. Don't let others dictate your future. That would be my top 2.
Hey, man, thanks for being on the show. I think through the last couple hours that we've been talking, we definitely have come across the fact that we have a lot more in common than we thought we did.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. Hey, everybody, if you like the show, please comment, share. We'll put all the band's information down in the description. Thank you for supporting the show, and thanks for being on the show, man.
Thank you.
Peace out.